We do indeed have so many positive actions and forward movements across our campus. We can be proud of our improving ACT average for incoming freshmen from 21.5 just 4 years ago to over 23 this fall. A dramatic increase in our four-year graduation rates from 25% 3 years ago to over 30% this last year, and the six-year graduation rate is 51%. An improving student-faculty ratio, which is now at 17-1. And a 5% increase in the number of tenure-track full-time faculty while reducing our dependency on part-time faculty. We can also celebrate achieving a new SACS COC Level 6 designation due to 5 terminal degrees with more on the way. Our much improved campus infrastructure is encouraging, and we're also experiencing encouraging and growing private gift support and so many other measures which you are achieving throughout our campus community. In addition to this list and the video you just saw, I want to share with you an assessment of our 2012 to 2018 Campus Action Plan. But rather than go through a lot of the data here this morning, I'm going to forward an action plan progress report to you right now. It's teed up, so here it goes. Sharing it with you right now. I'm pretty sure that's occurring. And I encourage you to study it. We have surpassed our 2018 targets with 16 performance indicators, and we have some work to do on the other 26, but we're making progress, and we will update this plan this year and have a new 5-year plan ready next year, this time next year, which will be a 2016 to 2021 action plan. With all of our successes and achievements, we are, however, at somewhat of a crossroads in 3 important regards: enrollment, state funding, and faculty staff compensation. All 3 of these crossroads have a major bearing on our institutional budget and thusly on our professional and personal lives. Before getting into each of these 3 areas, please allow me to reframe our budget challenge for this year. The year started this past July 1st. Our students are paying a tuition increase of 3% this fall, which equals approximately $3.5 million in new revenue. Our fixed costs and obligations total approximately $3.5 million, which means our only new revenue stream, tuition, and our cost obligations are generally offsetting. When we added in a shortfall this past year in enrollment revenue, primarily due to a declining part-time adult learner population and too many students failing to persist past their freshman year, we found a $2.4 million hole to fill. As the spring rolled along, we found a dramatic increase in the number of students accepting our scholarship offers. That is, they chose to come here, and their ACT scores and grade point averages were above the thresholds for various scholarship qualifications. And this was due in two parts: more students accepting our scholarships, and for the first time, we actually removed the application necessary for a scholarship and used the application for admission, which had the necessary data to calculate who was eligible for a scholarship. Well, since students didn't have to apply, a lot of them were a bit surprised that they were getting a scholarship. That's good for them, expensive for us. This coming year, they're going to be applying for scholarships. The overspending on scholarships, while significantly strengthening our academic quality, is costing us $3.8 million in this year's budget. Those 2 variables, a $2.4 million hole to fill from enrollment revenue and a $3.8 million increase in spending for scholarships, unbudgeted, created a $6.2 million budget challenge. Unfortunately, any consideration we may have had of a salary increase was offset by the $6.2 million internal reallocation to cover the enrollment and scholarship revenue pressures. While we have fought hard to sustain a balanced budget, we have also worked hard to keep our tuition as low as possible. And even with a 3% tuition increase, WKU is last in price point among our benchmark institutions. And even in state, our total cost of attendance is $17,848 for tuition and fees, room, board, and books, which is $1,800 below the University of Louisville at $19,684 and some $5,500 below the University of Kentucky at $23,370. These financial realities frame our budget challenge for this fiscal year. Low price point combined with greater demand for scholarships and a declining adult learner population combined with unsatisfactory retention rates forced us to reallocate significant funds which usurped our thoughts of an internal reallocation to improve salaries. So let's get right into those three crossroads that I mentioned. Let's start with enrollment. We made significant changes in enrollment management this past year. Enrollment management now reports directly to me, and I am spending significantly greater time focusing on strategies and numbers, and personally engaging myself in student recruitment. Last year, I visited 28 high schools, many of them to speak to senior classes, and I'm currently scheduling several high school visits over the next few months. I also made a point to speak with all but 2 of our ATP groups as they came to campus over the spring and summer, as recently as yesterday. We all must remember as we approach our orientation and registration process that even though students have registered for classes, they are still making final enrollment decisions and may have registered for classes at multiple institutions. The recruitment process is as much about final enrollment as it is growing the applicant pool. It's all about the yield. A student is not officially ours until they show up for class on Monday. We've broken our enrollment profile down into 4 areas of focus going forward. Traditional age students, primarily Kentucky residents, but also including domestic out-of-state students. Full-paying undergraduate and graduate international students. Retention, we simply must improve our freshman to sophomore retention ratio and further improve our 4- and 6-year graduation rates. And finally, adult learners, typically 25 years old and older, generally on our regional campuses, but not all, and generally part-time, but not all. This last category, adult learners, is the enrollment segment which has seen the sharpest decline over the last couple of years. Some of this because of an improving economy and jobs are available, and some of it because of the cost realities of higher education. We get that. And it is a trend we share with many public universities across America. We are, however, implementing strategies in all 4 of these categories: traditional students, international students, retaining our current students, and adult learners, all aimed at strengthening our enrollment profile from both a quality and a quantity standpoint. As I indicated at this convocation a year ago, recruitment and retention is everyone's responsibility, everyone in this room and everyone across this campus. We have so much to sell here, and we all must do our share to help serve our students, help them solve their problems, and meet their needs. Some of those efforts are beginning to pay off. As of this week, our first-time incoming student numbers are up slightly. Our part-time undergraduate numbers have stabilized, but our part-time graduate numbers are still tracking downward. Our biggest challenge, however, is a 23% drop in continuing full-time freshmen. Our objective this year is to achieve stability in all forms of enrollment-driven revenue. And my goal is to stabilize financially. I'm less concerned about the numbers this year as I am about the dollars driven by enrollment. There's still some work to be done as the final numbers are counted next week, and certainly as we're already gearing up for next fall for the students who will enter in the fall of 2016. In order to address our scholarship challenges, we have reworked our scholarship policies and practices. Our campus scholarship programs are being reconfigured in an effort to offer more modest scholarships to a greater number of students, while at the same time containing our costs. The total annual scholarship budget for merit and need-based awards totals $23.5 million. This does not include departmental scholarships and athletic scholarships and employee-dependent awards. Our priority is to stretch our scholarship dollars as far as possible by decreasing the value of the award for some and increasing the number of awards offered overall. We intend for this to have a positive impact on recruitment and retention, particularly for students who fall below the Honors College thresholds, without adding strain to our overall campus budget. Before leaving that matter of enrollment this morning, I want to reiterate a theme that I spent a good bit of time on at last year's convocation. I am convinced that new enrollments begin with how we treat and serve our current students. As our society changes, as our student composition changes, and even as laws change, we too must change and adapt. I challenged our student leaders last year to never let what happened at the University of Oklahoma in the form of a racial chant ever happen here. We have built support systems into our international student service programs to address the needs of a growing international population, which brings vastly different cultural norms and values to our campus. We've also embraced LGBTQIA members in our community and on our campus family. And by the way, I enjoy seeing the safe space symbols across our campus, but let's make every place on this campus a safe zone. The point I'm trying to make here is that we will not allow differences among us to affect how we cherish our diversity and how we find enrichment from such differences. Every student, every member of our faculty and staff for that matter, is as important as any member of our student body or of our employee family. Let's celebrate the excellence among us and embrace our richness and our diversity. And remember the two key words from last year's convocation: nice matters. Thank you. Our second crossroad is the most pressing and perhaps the most uncertain variable that we face: state funding. In many ways, higher education is under siege across America, and that is also true in Kentucky. So much has been written and said about declining financial support, a growing focus on job preparation, increasing student loan debt, debates about tenure and faculty workload, compromises in for-profit education, questions about rigors of accreditation, Title IX compliance, and lawsuits which threaten to unionize or create salaries for athletes. The list goes on and on. In Kentucky, some of these same issues influence funding discussions. And that is particularly true when funds are scarce and demand for state funding is high. The last year that Kentucky increased base funding for higher education was 2006. By the time the 2016 budget is considered next spring, we will have suffered through a lost decade of state support for higher education. A decade. Since 2008, public higher education in Kentucky has lost $173 million in state appropriations, which fund the base budgets for our state-assisted universities. WKU has lost $15 million in state funding over that period of time, and we have reallocated another $15 million more from our own base budget, meaning that we have reduced spending at this institution by some $30 million since 2008. That is a lot of money in a $400 million budget. My mantra for 18 years has been to control our own destiny and not whine about what others are not doing for us, to focus on the partnerships that we create, and to act in ways that are within our power to act independently. And while those principles still hold true, I am absolutely ready to take the fight to Frankfort and be as aggressive and as focused on restoring state funding as I can possibly be. I'll be spending a lot of time in Frankfort this fall, and especially next spring when the 2016 Kentucky General Assembly convenes. I'll be more than consumed with those responsibilities and the student recruitment functions which I addressed a moment ago. But here's why I call state funding a crossroads for us. The state budget for the 2016-18 biennium could go either way. It could drift further away from higher education, or hopefully drift back toward additional funding for higher education. We are in a delicate place, and the dynamics are in flux. New leadership in Frankfort must come to understand the value our universities bring to all Kentuckians. We will have a new governor in November who will put together a 2-year budget in December. The General Assembly will address his proposed budget in January, February, and March, and that budget will be set in April. It will be under serious pressure from massive financial challenges like state pension shortages, something which many of us care deeply about, a growing list of Medicaid and Affordable Care Act obligations, a deteriorating system of roads and bridges, and pent-up needs in K-12 educational funding. We will have stiff competition in the 2016 to 2018 biennial budget process, and we must make the case that as serious as these other needs may be, higher education's needs are equally serious. Kentucky's economy is improving, but not likely enough to fund everything on the list of funding needs. And we will have a battle on our hands next spring. I will be meeting with both gubernatorial candidates. I already met with one. We'll be meeting with the other one in about 2 weeks. It's important that that process begins now for what is so important to us going forward this year. To help our case, the 8 public university presidents and the president of KCTCS have been working with the Council on Post-Secondary Education and our campus financial staffs and provosts to craft a new higher education funding model based largely on performance funding. Given our dramatic growth over the last 18 years, our growth in degree productivity, our volume of underserved students, and our growth in STEM plus H, science, technology, engineering, math plus health, enrollments, we will fare better in the distribution of funds through this model than we have in the past when funding or budget cuts were distributed based solely on an institution's existing share of the total higher education budget. There's also an equity variable in this model, which if, and it's a big if, but if new funding is appropriated, that equity variable will make up for the funding we failed to receive when we were growing more than any of the other institutions in Kentucky. The problem was the state was unable to fund our growth period between 1998 and 2013. Consequently, we watched our state funding per student drop from some $7,500 per student to just over $4,700 per student today. WKU and Northern Kentucky University, the 2 institutions which have grown the most, are the 2 universities that have an equity funding variable in this performance-based model. But I remind you, this is just a model. It means nothing without added money to fund the model. If money is added to the higher education budget, we will get more than a fair share of it. And I will keep you updated as this process unfolds throughout the year. And I would also be pleased to describe the new higher education funding model to anyone or any group which might like to become more familiar with it. So let's go to our third crossroads, compensation. Without question, the single most important challenge we face at home, the single highest priority we have, is faculty and staff compensation. Nothing else comes close. Things that cost money may surface, like an enrollment shortfall and a scholarship obligation did this current year. But our hope is that in our next budget, we can cover fixed cost increases with a modest tuition increase. It is also our hope that we can avoid surprises and use as much as we possibly can of any increase in state funding or some tuition increase revenue for faculty staff salary increases. We have held steady in our benchmark comparisons for salaries across the various faculty ranks with our statewide comparables, largely because until the current year, we were making modest improvements while most campuses were doing less while dealing with similar compensation challenges. But now, none of that matters. It simply doesn't matter. We're hurting. This year, we did not keep pace with inflation or the rising cost of health care or our rising retirement obligations. I could not make promises here in August about what the budget process next spring will bring, but I can tell you what our priority will be with new revenue, and it will be salaries. And another thing I can promise, I get lots of advice, particularly as we get into stressful budget scenarios. Another thing I can promise is fairness, balance, and objectivity in all of our financial and operating decisions. And I believe the Board of Regents will also reflect such objectivity. In this regard, the Board, at its last meeting on July 24, specifically tasked its Finance Committee with studying the matter of compensation for faculty and staff, and those meetings are underway. A few years ago, I began a term on the Board of Directors for the Semester at Sea program, and I've learned a lot about ships and fuel and maritime law and emergent study abroad. At our last board meeting, I learned about trim tabs. Never heard of that term before. Trim tabs are small mechanisms on rudders of large ships, small things that determine the direction of a large, complex thing. Well, if we can get our trim tabs positioned just right, then I know we can face these crossroads ahead of us like we have every other challenge we have faced over the last 18 years. With sound strategic planning, focused effort, and hard work, and with relevant data to drive our decisions, we can face our crossroads with this incredibly talented group of faculty and staff, each contributing your share of effort to this large, complex educational environment to ensure that we are heading in the right direction. This is indeed a large, complex institution with many parts and many different people contributing to its success. This morning marks my 18th faculty and staff convocation. Our shared successes over these last 18 years have been many. A 38% growth in enrollment, a 66% growth in degrees conferred each year, somewhat improved retention rates, improved ACT scores, a 200% increase in our campus budget, a lower student-faculty ratio, no fewer than 93 new degree programs closely aligned with relevant career opportunities, including 27 at the master's and 4 at the doctoral level, a transformed campus with major facility upgrades, 2 successful capital campaigns, significant growth in our endowment, a world-class honors college, and a nationally acclaimed high school academy, both of which bring talent to our campus unlike we've ever experienced before. A new athletic conference, and international reach that is defining our student composition and broadening global citizenship for our students. None of this has come easy. We have had to fight for our position in Kentucky's higher education landscape, and we have. We've had to fight for, and we have earned, national recognition. Our vision, those 7 words, a leading American university with international reach, is being achieved. We have built a brand of value and relevancy and quality and strength. We have fought for every philanthropic dollar given to us, or appropriated to us, or paid in tuition. Some students have enrolled because of our legacy or family ties or geography, but mostly we have had to fight and earn their desire to be part of this university family. And we have been entrepreneurial. We have taken calculated risks, which have paid off for us. We have earned respect in Frankfurt and Washington and in Louisville and in Lexington and in London and in Beijing. We have stayed true to our traditions and to our values. We have not created contrived PR firm cliches to define us or our campus. We have nurtured our unique traditions and defined well our personality as a university. Our spirit still defines us, and it is strong. Our heart is strong. Our minds have always been strong, but we are blending the two with pride and distinction. We will use that spirit at each of the crossroads we face in this 110th year of our institutional existence. And I have no doubt that this time next year, we will again celebrate a list of impressive achievements and points of pride that highlight the 2015-16 academic year. We'll also know then how we were able to navigate the crossroads we have discussed here this morning. No one or no institution is sitting still. Our benchmarks are moving forward and driving as hard as we are. Other universities in Kentucky are taking pages out of our playbook. New academic facilities, new doctoral degrees, renovated residence halls and branded restaurants, new student unions, and internationalization. Even a few new honors colleges are popping up, and there's another high school academy for gifted students. All of that is good for Kentucky, and we appreciate the flattery. But we are not sitting still either. We will continue to innovate, to identify and correct deficiencies, to compete globally and to be relevant across the globe, and shape the information technology curve in higher education. We will sustain the highest quality of life to be found on any campus, anywhere in this state or any other. And we'll wave our red towels and high-five with Big Red and smile at our white squirrels and adore our cupolas and enjoy our hilltop landscape. But much, much more importantly than those things, we will push our students to be all in, to finish, and to graduate. Last fall, Lieutenant General Charles Bolden, former astronaut and current chief administrator at NASA, visited our campus. He told a story to some of our students that stuck with me. He spoke of a 12-year-old African boy who was dying of AIDS he had contracted before he was even born. Yet this young boy spent most of his entire but short life trying to help others, trying to improve his village, never once feeling sorry for himself or lamenting his lot in life. When asked What did he attribute his positive attitude to? What did he attribute his positive attitude? He replied, "From the time I was born, my mother taught me to do the best I can with what I have, where I am, in the time that I have left." Bold, strong, inspiring words from a 12-year-old boy who did not see his 13th birthday. Do the best you can with what you have, where you are, in the time that you have. If everyone in this university family can do our part to recruit new students, to teach them well, to serve them well, and to encourage our students with pleasant but fair and firm resolve to stay the course and graduate, then I and those with whom I am fortunate to work most closely will do all we can to navigate these crossroads as effectively as possible. And I saw a great message on Facebook just last night. It was from a parent, and she said, "My son is starting his 4th year at WKU, and I couldn't be more proud that he chose a school that has cared about him as if he's the only student on campus. Anytime I, as a parent, have a question or concern, it's been handled in the most professional but personal way. My husband is a WKU alumnus, and we are so excited to be a family of hilltoppers." Let's make every parent feel that way, but it starts with their students, and it starts with all of us. I will end these remarks as I so often have over the last 18 years. We are fortunate to be part of a very special institution. We do have a special spirit here, and that spirit is making masters of our students. It is as much about the heart as it is the head. Let's live that WKU spirit, let's embrace it, and let's use it to attack our challenges. Thank you. Thank you for what you do every day to improve our campus, to enhance the learning that occurs here, and to strengthen the research and the creative energy that defines one of America's great universities. Thank you for the contributions each and every one of you bring to our students and to each other. You are this university family. You are the WKU spirit. You are the energy behind our progress. You are the lifeblood of this university. Your well-being is rivaled only by the well-being of our students. And I'm proud to work with you, to share this splendid campus with you and with our students, and to be part of something as important and as noble as our shared calling in higher education. And I tell almost every student with whom I speak, WKU is about higher education, and understand that word higher. I cannot promise what this year will bring, but I can promise leadership and a driven passion in pursuit of what we need to thrive as a university family. Thank you, and let's have a great and productive year.